Hey guys, my name is Nogan. Welcome to my C++ series. So guys, I hope you're doing good. In today's video, we are moving away now from basic principles of C++. We're zooming in something called function C++. So today focusing on use-defined functions in defining them, and also how can we build use-defined functions C++. So if you guys haven't watched the previous video, it's about break and continue statements or keywords in C++. I'll leave a card on top there, so guys go and check the video out because it's about the how to use those keywords in terms of when using the functions. Let me say when using them with loop, because now we're focusing on loops and how they combine together and form a systematic way of doing things in programming. But now, as I mentioned, today we're focusing on functions. So what are functions? Now, functions are building blocks. They let you divide complex programs into manageable pieces, as we'll see in a moment. Now, they have other advantages also, which means while you're working on one function, you can focus on just that function to make it much more, to construct it properly, to debug it, and also to perfect it. Which means different people can work on different functions simultaneously, which means a group of people can build focus on, let me say, 3 functions. Fundamentally now there is something very specific if you're building a software, because now this topic of functions are the building blocks of how you build software. Of course, upcoming chapters also focus on much more deeper advanced topics of C++. But now guys, now here I'm going to declare 2 functions. Now when you declare functions, you have to include function prototypes, which means these are now functions declarations. Now we have 2 type functions. We have value-returning functions and we have void functions. Now value-returning functions are functions that have a return type. These functions return a value with a specific data type, as you'll see in a moment. Now void functions are functions they don't have return type, which means they don't have the return keyword, as you'll see in a moment. For example, let's say int. Now that this is the type of the function. Now the function name will be add. Now in this parentheses you have to give your functions can have they can have parameters, or they can't have parameters. But for this instance we have we'll have this function that has 2 parameters, which are called formal parameters now based on the declaration of it. So I'm gonna say int again, number 1, and int num2. So this function, guys, will do a calculation adding 2 numbers together. So after declaring a function, you add the semicolon here. Now this function, as I mentioned, has 2 form parameters here of type int, and this function, when you're declaring it, you have to include this semicolon to signify it's a function. But it's a function what? Declaration. You're just declaring it here. When you're giving this function now a definition, just like the body, you'll see in a moment how we define a function in the same file of this main CPP file here. So after this, after the main function, I'm going to give this function now a definition, which is int add num1 again, num2 again. So this function now I'm going to give it now a definition, which means the function body. So as you can see, these calibrations here is the function body. But remember, I spoke about there are 2 types of functions: value-returning functions and void functions. Now this function is a value returning function, which means it has a return type. So in here I'm going to declare now again another variable, int sum, which we're going to store the calculation, initialize to 0. Sum again. Now I'm going to use this form parameters here in this calculation, which means when the user inputs these 2 variables, as you'll see in the main function here, something's going to happen when the calculation takes place. So in this body of this function here, I'm going to use these 2 form parameters here. I'm going to say now num1 plus num2. Now, like I said, this function is a return type. So I'm going to say return keyword because it returns some value, but the value has to be of type int, as you can see here, based on this keyword. So because now sum is also type int, here I'm going to say sum, returning sum. Awesome. So now in here, guys, I'm going to say I'm going to declare two variables again, int x and also int y. Very important side note, which means when you are using actual parameters, because now these are going to be now actual parameters here. So these are going to be your actual parameters. That has to be the same as your formal parameters. Awesome. Okay, so after this, I'm gonna now call this function. When you're calling a function in the main function here, you have to give it now, you have to like call the name of the function, because remember, this is the name of the function is called add. So here, let me first say cout because the user has to input two values, enter two numbers, cin, x and y. So after this, when you call this function, you have to call the name of the function, which is add in the parentheses, because remember I spoke about these actual parameters, these ones that are here. So x is the same as num1 and y is the same as num2 by definition, of course, as you can see here. So I'm going to say now it's going to be x and y. Awesome. But again, we want to see now what's happening. What is the value of that sum calculation that takes place in this function of add here. So I'm going to just use a CL statement so we can see the sum is awesome. Let me just include in the end line so we can just make it beautiful. Okay, so guys, let's test this. Control-Shift-B to compile your program. And guys, very important, functions are very powerful when using them in programming. So if you can master this concept of function, because when you're going to, for example, Java or C#, these functions are called now methods, which means the terminology is changing, but the concept is still the same. Of course, the syntax will be a little bit different, but the functionality of those are still similar. Okay, succeeded here. Awesome. So let's run this. Go to local window debugger. Let's run this. Awesome. So let me say 150 and also 750. Awesome. As you can see, guys, the sum is 900. This is wonderful. This is beautiful. Just close this. Okay. So let me add another function, but this time let me add now a void function, which means if you can see here for the first function, we have like a function prototype, which is declared before the main function, and also giving the body afterwards. The same thing applies here. What I'm going to do here, let me just go up here again and add now a void function. Okay, so this function will be called now display. Now this function, guys, won't take any form parameters, but it will have like a body. So after the main function, after also this int add number, add function, I'm going to say void again, display, giving it a definition. Now in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go back to the main function here and copy this. Let me just cut this and paste it in this function display, so we can use a function when we want to enter these two numbers. Okay, so what's going to happen right now here, I'm going to call this function display. Semicolon. So what's happening with this functionality of this function? Just include the comment. So this is now a void function does not have return type, because in this function I don't have a keyword called return, let's say num, because this function is a function that doesn't have a return type. Even if I did, for example, let me say I'm saying int num, I'm just like declaring it here, you're still going to get like an error. As you can see, that the return value type does not match this function by definition. So these are two types of functions that we have, guys, in C++. And as you can see, I have like declared only a returning type function of type int. It can also be double. For example, it can also be double here, double function. It could be boolean. As long as the function has a return type, it will be okay. Okay, so after this now, as you can see here, what's going to happen is that this function will be called, display will be called first here, and this message, this one here, will be displayed in this main function here, where you say as the input those two numbers. Let's test this. Let's run this. Awesome. So let me say 1450 and also say, for example, 850. Awesome. As you can see, the sum is this. Awesome. So guys, as you can see, we're having a small program that does a calculation. This is something very small, as you can see, but sufficient, of course. As I mentioned, functions are the building blocks of building a software. It's where you start to build something very constructive. But the thing is, if you can master this concept, guys, of functions here, because in the upcoming videos we'll be expanding on this content more, and you'll see when you're focusing on class and objects how these become much more defined in their proximity when they've been used closely with classes and how they've been called now as methods there. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, just please don't forget to comment down below about this, because I'm thinking I'm gonna also try and upload the source code on the GitHub account. I'm gonna link also the link for the GitHub account with source code in the description below. So guys, thank you for watching. Enjoy your day. Don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, click on the bell notification, and see the post on my channel.